Okay, so here we go with part 2 of the installation of the CSL bumper. So yeah, let's get straight to it. All right, there she is. She's nicely installed, nice and snug all the way around. You can see that section nice and tight here. That's where I wanted to make sure end up here. And there's the screws from underneath. You may not be able to tell just because it's black on black. That way it's not so noticeable. So we got 3 here, and same thing with the other side. Everything seemed to be perfect. So sweet. So I will call this done, and now we'll get to the intake. Okay, so I went ahead and already removed the Carbonius Snorkel, so I got that removed. And what we ended up doing is, when I installed this originally, we went ahead and left the rubber grommet that the stock airbox kind of slides onto. So that will have to be removed, and one of the bolts. I'm just going to cut one of them off. I don't see the need to cut both of them off. I'm going to cut one of those, which is the bolt. There's just what it sits in, and I'll have to cut that off. And then also what we're going to end up doing is to get this squared away and bolted down on there. I am going to use another rib nut, and I'm going to drill inside of the chassis, so that way when this goes in, well, this way, I'll be able to bolt this clip onto the actual chassis, and then I'll take a look and see where this one lies at that point. So this end here, because this is a 2-piece section, it's the 2-piece sections I showed you earlier. This upper piece is the one that connects to the actual intake itself, and this one bolts onto the chassis. So if you ever need to take it off, this stays on the chassis, and this can just be removed from either place, and it just kind of slips on just like that. So that's going to be the next thing, is going to go ahead and cut that off, and also put some preventative rust on there so it doesn't rust, and then drill for this, tap it, and I'm going to use a 10 millimeter what's it, M6? No, M8 bolt, and get that ball rolling. So let me get my cutting tools out. All right, so here is that rubber piece I was talking about, and this one just slides right on out. And there are those 2 bolts, kind of what they sit into. So this is the one that I'm going to cut off, and I'm probably most likely will leave that one. There's no need to be cutting that one off. So as you can see, here is where the actual tube connects. So this is the one that's going to be in the way here, and down here towards the bottom on the rail, that's where I'm going to be drilling through and putting a time insert in, and putting a 10 mil bolt to secure the lower section of the tube. So I got my cutting tool already out, so let's get it cutting. All right, so gonna go end up cutting it. I went ahead and put a sheet in the air filter for the airbox, just make sure nothing goes in there, nothing that shouldn't go in there. So let's get to it. There we go. Now she's all done. Where's my rag to clean that? There we go. Okay, so to drill that hole, so you could mount this little bad boy on. The main issue you're going to have, or you're going to come across, is space. You have hardly any space. So there's a couple options. Option number 1 would be to remove the alternator and the power steering. Take those down. I'll give you enough room to be able to get a drill, even a 91 like this one, and that's option 1. You can try to remove, or you can try something totally different. You know, zip tie it or something. I don't know. It depends on what you want to do. But this is how I did it, because I want to make sure I get the rib nut in. And so I did remove the belt. And what I ended up doing is I took one of my trusty drill bits that I have plenty of. I went ahead and cut it down and used that to drill my hole. So I got the hole already started. It was a little bit, because it was walking around just a tad bit, but it just took a little bit of time to finally get it in the right spot. Go slowly, just to make a small indentation, and once it looked like it wasn't going to move anymore, that's when I put pressure on it and got to drill. So the next thing is going to go to the next size up. But at least now I have the hole drilled, and that's going to enable me to be able to get the nutsert in there, and hopefully even tighten down the rib nut. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep plugging away at it. All right, so I got a little bit of the rust preventative coating. This will kind of like do like a rubber coating around it. So I'm going to get the screw, the stud that I cut off, and I'm also going to cover the hole where I got this as well. So I'll get to that, and then that way I could go ahead and put the nut insert in and get that all squared away. So yeah. We need a little light. Let there be light. All right, she's in. So I got that taken care of. Now what's going to end up happening is I'm going to let that dry. It's going to take about, at least 24 hours for it to be completely cure. And I think it said it's like maybe, I have to look at it. But I'm going to dab it with some white paint that I have here. That way it's not black little spots. That way it looks a little bit cleaner. But yeah, so now that that's in, it's now start to finish off. I can go ahead and at least install that, get the screw in place and get that going, and finish the rest of the installation down towards the bottom and see what else I gotta cut. So yep, let's keep plugging away. All right, so there you can see up in the top is where the stud was cut, and that's where the rib nut is installed down there. It's about as close as I could get it with my phone. So yeah, she's coming along. I just wanted to show you that real quick so you guys can see that yeah, rib nut can be installed there. Tight, but it can be done. Okay, so pretty much got all that taken care of. The hoses for the bottom. In the end, what I ended up doing is I went ahead and got those foams and I epoxied the foams back into place. So those are taped into place, that way they can stay and I'm not nudging them and moving them around. So what I've got is now the bracket. I don't know if you guys remember looking at the bracket before, or you know, remember it. It was pretty bad. I was able to straighten it out, but it's better than what it was before, but it's not what we're going to keep. We are going to get a new one. Like I stated before, the wheel well is going to be replaced as well, or the wheel well, the fender liner, that section that's been broken off, which technically the darn ambient air sensor goes into, that will have to be purchased, and we'll install that at a later point. And this new piece, and the one piece that's missing, which is the actual elbow that connects to the air inlet for the intake system. So that is missing. So it's misplaced, or thought it was ordered, but it's definitely was not in the box that I received. So we will be installing that at a later point as well. Originally this bracket was set like this. This section here will get cut out so that the tube, the section that gets bolted to the chassis, will actually cut into here, and it'll bolt up through this little hole right here. Because we're going to replace this, and it came out pretty good, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was going to come out this straight. As I started banging on, I was about to throw it in the trash and say, hey, we're just going to get another one, but got it. But I'm going to go ahead and just bolt it to here, get everything squared away, put it all back together, and we're going to have to pick it up at a later point. I might just do a part 2 on it. Who knows? It's just really not much of anything left besides putting all this back together. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. Now, the other thing that I want to add was this section here. Now, this is, of course, the Snorkel. This is the section that went on the brake duct system. So I removed it and I slid it in here, which is a nice snug fit, but I'm just doing that in there so we could have the sensor and it's not laying around or have it zip tied. So this is actually going to hold it very well until we can get the other parts in and ordered and and install them. So so yeah, this is the ambient air for the system. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we get that plugged in. Normally this will go into that elbow that goes into the intake hole for the CSL bumper. So yeah, so at this point I'm just going to go ahead and start putting stuff back together, and yeah, so let's get to it. All right guys, so there we go. So the bumper's all back together. I didn't film me smacking it in because it's just always one of those things, but so got it all together, everything's all put back together like I stated before. Let me show you on the front side where the actual ducting and the ducting that we're missing. We'll go through that, and the only thing I need to do is just put the wheels back on. And oh, and the other thing, so like I've always stated, there's always something that pops up. There's always an issue, and this is the reason why I'm a week, 2 weeks behind on every single project. Now everything was ordered, everything was everything was dropped off minus the one boot. So the ambient air sensor was ripped out, and you got the plugs, the pins, every little thing that you can think of. But unfortunately, it was the wrong plug. Got the right sensor. So what I had to do is, I'm like, well, I have two 04s. I have one 03 and an 04 E46 M3 wiring harness. One that I took out of my track car that I just took out or removed everything that I needed, and I still kept it as a spare. And then I have a full spare harness that I got previously. So I had to rummaging through my spare stuff so I can fix this car and get it out. So Mr. Michael's going to go ahead and get me a new connector. Otherwise, I know where he lives, and it's very easy to get to. I just come over here and just snip it off and have it, because I do need that piece, and it's something that I wanted and I need for down the road. So so at least use that part, one of my parts, so I can get this car done. But let's go ahead and take a look at the plumbing back there, and then the one part that I'm missing. All right, so there we go in the wheel well on the left hand side, and there is the bracket right here that I kind of just hammered together and straightened out, and got it bolted on there. Like I stated, I wasn't going to use the OEM one because we're going to replace it, and there's no need for me to go in and hacking this thing and cutting it and making it all pretty when it's going to be replaced. Now here is the one section that we're missing, the grill I have, and this piece is going to go, and there'll be an elbow, and then it'll connect to the carbon fiber piece right here, the Snorkel, for the CSL intake. This piece here is the OEM one that comes off the bumper, which is the brake duct cooling, and that goes in there, and that's what we end up doing to get the CSL intake first installed. Now here is the ambient air sensor that is that was missing, that is no longer missing. So we got that set aside, zip tied out of the way until we can get this whole section replaced. So we got a few more parts we need to order, and hopefully this car will be completely done, but it will be going back to Mike's today. So sweet. So let me go ahead and put the wheels on and get a better glimpse of the car. All right guys, so there she is. She's all back together. And that's what she looks like. She looks pretty dang good. Yeah, so as I was saying, the only thing we have to end up doing is just getting the elbow for that, and doing the actual lower section of the fender liner, get that taken care of, and the sensor will be removed from where it's at, and then plugged into where it needs to be. And yeah, everything looks great. Everything else on the underneath the hood is all taken care of. And I turned the car on and ran the AC system, and she's blowing cold. So that's good, and it's reading 76 degrees. So sweet. So that's it for this episode. Unfortunately, I wish we had everything to complete this. So unfortunately, it's going to be an unfinished video at the installation portion of that. But no matter what, you can see what it went through. And like I said before, what Mike told me is this bumper is no longer available, and it actually is a really good fitment. It fits all nice, and it's a nice fitment. It's a nice fitment. So yeah. So like always, guys, help the channel out by doing so. You gotta like and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video.